All right, everybody. It says we're live. It is February 13th, 2020, and I have the honor here to have Dr. Paul Cottrell. Let us give him an interview. We have a lot of questions, but to be honest with you, Dr. Paul, you have been extremely busy. You have actually became a YouTube sensation pretty much overnight. Unfortunately, for certain reasons,
Right,
but
right.
if you have a couple minutes, can you tell us a little bit about you, your history, your credentials, etc.? Because I read a lot about you, to let the viewers know that have never even heard of you. Just like I
Okay.
said, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So just a little synopsis of my background, at least educationally,
Mhm.
is it's an undergrad and a MBA at Wayne State University. I got my PhD. Well, it's in finance. It's modeling financial markets, the oil
Mhm.
market, and the currency markets. And then, unfortunately, while I was working on my dissertation, my brother passed away from heart disease.
Oh, sorry to hear
Um,
about your loss.
And so after I finished my PhD, I decided to, start dedicating my life and learning about medicine and tried to apply to medical school. So to apply to medical school, you have to do a lot of preparatory work, so there's a pre-med program that
Hmm.
that I went through at Fordham University in New York City. I live in New York. I
Hmm.
was born and raised in Detroit.
Oh, wow.
And once I finished the pre-med program, I enrolled in a master's program at Harvard University
Wow.
in biology.
Hmm.
So that's where I get the genomic information, the neuroscience, the anatomy and physiology, the endocrine, the bioinformatic information, the molecular biology, cancer biology. So I know what I'm talking about. And right
Exactly.
after I finish, so I'm near the end of I'm near the tail end of the master's program,
Mhm.
to working on the thesis and whatnot. So once I finished that, then the goal was to go to medical school. So that was the trajectory that I had, was to help people. I wanted to be a cardiologist or like a cardiothoracic surgeon. That was my goal, and to help people that
Right.
had similar problems that my brother had. So that's roughly my educational bio. But just to mention shortly, my father's side of the family immigrated to the United States in 1790. That was
Wow.
that was when George Washington was president.
Right.
And on my mother's side, they escaped the Holocaust. They were from Romania,
Hmm.
and they had to come through. They had to come through Canada because at that time the United States wasn't taking in Jews,
Hmm.
and they eventually were able to go through Canada and through Windsor and into Detroit. So that's the Detroit connection. And some of her family could not get out, and her brother and her mother died
Oh,
in the
sorry to
Holocaust.
hear.
And
So
I
sorry
had,
to hear.
and so this is why it's so visceral to me, what
Hmm.
I'm seeing that's going on. Um, the erosion of civil liberties, um, and making sure our great nation and its constitution is preserved.
Right. Well, here on this channel, like I said, we're more or less a Christian-based channel, and one of the main rules that I have on this channel is, we allow trolls to come in and speak their mind or whatever, but as soon as they're anti-Semitic and they start bashing the Jewish people, they're immediately blocked from the channel. So, like in the Bible, we believe that the Jewish people are God's chosen people, the apple of God's eye. But so to know about your background, that's great to know, and it's that you have extreme knowledge over someone like me. What I wanted to ask you is a few key points, and I'll let you ride with them. A lot of people are saying this is nothing but fear porn. This virus doesn't exist. Yada yada yada. And I'm sure, like I said, because you become a YouTube sensation kind of overnight, because of your knowledge. And what do you tell those people that say, hey, this is fake, because I know you, like you said, with your educational background, like what's the difference between this virus and the regular coronavirus? Because I personally, and a lot of us viewers, believe that this is basically like a bioweapon, maybe that got out on accident or whatever, but it was engineered. So do you believe that this?
Okay. Well, let me unpack what it's.
Yeah, I know. I
real.
asked too many questions. Right.
It's definitely real. Here's the thing. People, when they're skeptical, and the country's been divided because of the mainstream media to put us into kind of like little of thought. It's very easy to have skepticism and not believe anything, even if it's staring them in the face. And there is a kind of like a cognitive dissonance that's taking place in our society topics, especially this one. The virus is very real, and there are many different strands of this virus. It's called the coronavirus. It's a family of viruses, just like influenza is a family of viruses, or retroviruses, is a type of virus. There's a family of viruses, but the coronavirus, it is the benign form, is the common cold. When people say I got the common cold, that's it.
Really?
But
that is
but the problem, it's a form. Yeah, it's the benign form. The one that won't kill you. Now there are forms that will kill you, like the SARS, the MERS, and Wuhan.
Right.
And that's something very disconcerting, where if someone doesn't take care of their situation when they're sick, especially during an outbreak, they could have permanent scarring in their lung sacs, and it's called they have a fibrotic tissue that sets in because of the scarring, and they'll have breathing problems for the rest of their lives if they get a really bad case of it. But if you catch it early, it's treatable.
Right.
And here's the problem that we see in China. There are lots of people dying. I mean, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And my channel is trying to track the crematorium flow rates and what the real death rates are, because we don't believe what John Hopkins is stating. John Hopkins stated last night about 60,000 or so current world, and over 1,200 or so deaths. If you're in crematoriums in the Wuhan city, what John Hopkins is stating in terms of deaths. Now, when you cremate, you have to cremate the body, but you're also contaminated non-biological material, masks, gowns, linens, stuff like that. So it's important to understand that not everything that's burnt in a crematorium is probably biological. But the point that I'm making is that the actual kill ratio on this is way, way higher than what John Hopkins is stating. Way higher.
So you agree, like many of us do, from China, etc., are way low, simply because people say, well, it's fake, or it's not that bad. Why on earth would China risk their own economy and just shut down basically their whole country over I think the death toll was like 1,400 or 1,014 the other day, and 45,000. I'm just a rough estimate, rough number. There's no way on earth that this superpower that China has become would risk losing their whole economy over just less numbers in the flu kills each year.
Exactly.
But have you?
And they're go ahead.
I just want to say one other thing that I saw on Grand Supreme News, if there's a website, it's called windy.com, the winds, and then you can go above China and have you heard of that one? That website?
I have some of the researchers that are on my channel. My channel
Right.
has about 20,000 people watching. Some of those individuals, not everybody, but some of those individuals actually really dive into data,
Right.
either simulation data,
Hmm.
PDF documentation, news. I have translators from the world that are helping out and giving me, as best of information as, and try to be as real time as we can get. And that's why sometimes my channel beats the mainstream news by 4 or 5 days, because
Right.
literally I have an army around the world working on this.
Well, another thing that we were talking about is when you said you've only been up for about an hour because of all the research you're doing,
Right.
all the
Right.
interviews you're doing,
Right.
etc. And I told you about the breaking news of the 1,000 people that are either quarantined or being monitored in Los Angeles, the 200 plus in Georgia. And you told me, what was that you told me that you were estimating that today?
Oh,
Right.
so I'm on Oppenheimer Ranch with
Hmm.
Diamond pretty regularly, dealing with the coronavirus.
Hmm.
And last week we made the projection that we should see the beginnings of the outbreak for the United States and Canada today. And
And you
we
caught
said
it.
that a week ago.
Well, it just goes to show
A
you
week
how
ago. Yeah.
it goes to
Yeah.
show everybody how good your research is, how smart you are when it does come to this virus, and you nailed it spot on because I mean, boom, just out of nowhere, 200 plus in Georgia. Not saying they have it, but
Right.
even if 10 or 20 of them have it out of that group, and then now you hear breaking news right before we go live that 1,000 people are being quarantined, plus they're doing all these drills, but like I said, you're going to have all these skeptics, and um, like I've said before, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of hate mail, and you probably never even heard the word fear porn until you got involved with this.
Yeah.
Pardon me. I
No,
don't have.
there's a lot of skeptics. There's a lot of people that want to troll this. I don't, a battle between positive and negative energy, or good and evil. And
Amen.
you can tell people, what type of person or what kind of soul they are by the way they react to a certain situation. For me and for you, this
Hmm.
situation galvanizes us to try to do something in any capacity that we have, either financial capacity or intellectual capacity or networking, but we try to help. And then there's the negative
Right.
side that either wants to pull people down that are like us, that are trying to help,
Hmm.
or they actually are part of that negative force that's trying to make it worse. That
Right. I think I'm losing you there for a second.
there are some nefarious
Okay.
things going on.
Okay.
And I
Right.
think this negative force or negative people are feeding that. Like, for
Right.
example, um, um, you know, ah, there is a big opportunity for top-down government to roll out something I call the Patriot Act. So if you remember 9/11,
Hmm.
we had the buildings fall down, and
Right.
everyone would, pro America, and anti Islam, go kill the bad guy in the Middle East. Okay, there is terrorism that needs to be rooted out and hunted down, seek and destroy.
Hmm.
I believe
Right.
on
I'm kind of
never
losing.
ending
I'm
the
right.
rollout of the Patriot Act. I'm going to be saying
Hmm.
things that are probably going to cut out the video, because
That's
the
probably, yeah.
powers that
That's
be watch. The powers that be that watch.
exactly, exactly.
It happens. So we're just going to have to
I
roll
know
with it.
exactly. Yeah,
So
especially with the NSA, etc. But I just
right,
want to
right,
let you
right.
know
So
on your views on 9/11. A lot of us here on this channel personally believe, like many, that it was an inside job, like you said, which allowed the Patriot Act to
right,
happen, etc. The powers that be. the globalist elite, the New World Order, etc. So
Right.
go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead. You got the platform.
So basically, what has happened since, I don't know, about 25 years. Maybe
Mhm.
this country was more united, and they've fractured us into these groups. We normally call it the right and the left, but it's the top down that have power over us because we fractured. And in our
Right.
Constitution, it's we the people. And when
Right.
we come together, this is part of my channel, is trying to come together and help your neighbor,
Right.
independent of political affiliation, religious affiliation, whatever. It's just trying to help your fellow human being and to support your country. All right. And by being together, we have more power than the top down. This
Oh,
top
absolutely.
down but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that aren't wising up to what I'm saying, and they stay. They use fear, the fear of terrorism, to roll out a never-ending surveillance state through the Patriot Act and the ballooning
Absolutely.
out of the NSA and the Homeland Security. And now we're going to have 5G soon rolled out in the United States, and that means that they are going to even have better surveillance technology. And I live in New York, okay? I live in Manhattan, but I was born and raised in Detroit, and I've lived around the world, for a few areas like Germany, Japan, and I spent a little bit of time working on automotive projects
Very,
when I was an automotive engineer.
very
And
cool.
I've seen the world. And in New York, I have seen this for 11 years. I've seen the never-ending expansionism of surveillance by the police. More cameras, vans that X-ray people. I've actually seen the van that runs around Times Square that actually does X-rays. Now they say they do that for to make sure they can't see any bombs. But the thing is
Right.
how much radiation if I pass that X-ray machine that they have in that van.
Exactly.
That's totally. And
Mhm.
now they're implementing a surveillance system grid in New York, where it's very similar to what they have in London. Where if you go out of your home, they
They're
know
watching you.
at any given moment. And it's going to get
Right.
better with the facial recognition and the 5G. And now, it was last year when they actually had it, but they're doing much more. They're using it much more often. Is the
Right.
drones? The
Right.
NYPD has drones now. Why? So it's never ending,
Right.
because we fell asleep after 9/11, and we allowed
Exactly.
them to erode our civil liberties. So
Mhm.
they're going to use this outbreak, I believe, as a point to point to say, well, we need to have forced vaccinations, and we need to erode your civil liberties because we know better,
Mhm.
and we're technocrats, and we're going to roll out something called the Patriot Act. Now, if you look at information from the HHS, the Human Health Services Department, and the CDC, and some state legislature, either behind the scenes, ready to be passed, or actually already on the books as laws and procedures and protocols to actually take away your civil liberties and enforce certain things in
Wow.
in pandemic situations, an outbreak situation.
Right. And to me, it's it could be another false flag event. And a lot of people, I don't know if you believe in false flags. I do strongly. I mean, there's government documents that prove the false flag narrative is something that they've used in the past, that they've attempted to use. But I don't know if that falls into this category. But I did a video a little while ago on a drill that FEMA's having in Nebraska on March 3rd. And it's a small town that has less than 2,000 people. This was a document that I found through the help of one of my subscribers who asked me to look it up. And they're actually going to be doing mock drills, and they're going to be forcing people to be inoculated. with these vaccines, but it's only supposed to be salt water, this and that. So it's but it's, you know, like with 5G and smart meters. And when you go to the airport, you go on the X-ray. I mean, we're being bombarded. Now, what are your views on like smart meters and 5G? Do you know what it does to the molecules in your body, your DNA, by chance?
My worry about 5G is that there's not enough data, long-term data, to understand the long-term effects of these types of wireless technologies. And we're already seeing cases of cancers and brain fog and immune, systems going down with an technological society drowned in this digital wave.
Right.
The problem is 4G versus 5G. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
5G, they need to have these repeaters closer together, all right, because of the wave pattern. Okay, 4G could be farther away. Same thing with, let's say, AM and FM radio. Those stations could be much farther away. So because this is a more packed energy wave, they need to have these stations almost every other block in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So for it to work. So it's just the
mm-hmm.
energy density is too much. And I think that there's a lot of evidence, especially you're hearing cases where the tower, the 5G tower, is actually right above a school. And you hear these cases where these children are starting to get, 3 children out of 15 or 20 get some sort of leukemia or brain cancer or something. So I think there is a lot of suggested evidence, but it needs to be truly studied, the long-term effects of 5G. And to say that we know for sure it's safe is bogus. We don't know for sure it's safe. And there's a lot of evidence showing that it's unsafe.
Right.
So, people need to wake up and, stop thinking, oh, I'm just going to get my new iPhone, and I'm going to make sure that I have, the iPhone 12 and it's, not only 5G, it's 5G.5,
Right, exactly.
So and people need to realize that we have a society that's getting sick for multiple reasons. We're getting sick because of the fluoride in our water. We're getting sick because of the GMO in our foods. And we're getting sick because of the type of technology that's all around us. And we need to get back to nature and just kind of like get a little bit less technological. I'm not against tech, but I'm for safe tech.
Right, exactly.
And I'm not a Luddite, where the Luddites were the ones that were anti-machine, during the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an anti-tech person, but I do believe that there are certain technologies that are affecting the human body, and that there is this plan to basically become transhuman.
That's
where the devices, even the devices, they call them wearables, but that's a fancy term for the early stages of transhumanism.
Right.
Where, let's say you have the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch can buzz to tell you, your email or whatever.
Right.
Well, you have in your body sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. You gotta fight, and so your hormonal levels will go up, and your digestive system will kind of shut down. It won't want to digest, and you're in alert mode.
Right.
Parasympathetic is when you're digesting and you're not alert. Okay. And so your different organs will respond differently based on the parasympathetic or sympathetic activation. Well, when you get buzzed, that's a physical response. That's a physiological response to go into a sympathetic state.
Right.
So these technologies that, quote, will make us more efficient are actually making us sicker, because we're going into a fight or flight mode all the time.
Right. And you're not.
It might be a mini one, but there's a gradation of different fight or flights. One is to actually go and kill someone, and the other one is you're in an alert mode. But the point is if you have this all the time chronically, you're going to get sick. Well, and these technologies are making us sick.
my brother, he was a builder, contractor, police officer, etc. And he always had the cell phone to his ear. And then when the Bluetooth headset came in, and where they found the glioblastoma tumor was right behind his right ear. It was the size of a little smaller than a golf ball.
Right.
And me personally, he did a lot of research on it, and he believes that it came from all the years of having that phone and having that, never know. But he was a great guy. But like you said, the smart meters, the 5G, I actually believe, like you said, the powers that be know what 5G can do to the human population. Just like I believe our birth rate is dropping in America. A lot more young men are becoming infertile. Same with females. And you have nowadays in elementary schools, kids are given laptops or little tablets that are running off 5G.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they hold them in their lap all day long, So I
especially when they're young,
mm-hmm.
especially when they're young, where it can affect the germline.
Right.
So we don't really know. This is the point I'm making. We do not know, because of just social habits of using the technology, how it's going to affect the future generation, because they have this stuff right next to their gonads.
Right. Exactly.
And how it's affecting them.
Exactly.
As they move towards puberty.
Right.
Yeah. And once you have those mutations in the genome, in those germ cells, it's passed on from generation to generation.
Oh,
and that's the very point. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know
that. So like you have somatic cells and you have sex cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically your somatic cells are your, let's say your heart tissue, your lung tissue, your liver tissue, your normal body tissue. But the sex cells, the germline, those cells, if they go through a mutation and have some sort of mutation in the genome, some sort of mistake made, or there's fancy terms like translocations and point, nucleotide point mutations and stuff. But the bottom line is that if there's mutations in their germline, and then they, let's say, get married and have kids, their kids are going to have those mutations.
Wow.
And it'll be carried on from one generation to another. And so we have no idea, because we don't have the data to fully understand what this technology is doing to future generations. Well, and I suspect that it's not for the better; it's for the worse.
For the worse, absolutely.
Now, I'm not willing to go as far to say that they know what it's going to do. They're more motivated, and they're more motivated on profit. Right. They know that 5G is a huge boon for the economy and for selling products and technology and all that. I don't think they care. I think it's very similar to smoking. They could make so much money selling cigarettes early in the day, and then there were researchers back in the 40s that said, hey, cancer is going to start coming in lung cancer. But right. They didn't listen to these researchers. And then it started to pop up in about the 70s. And then you started seeing the warning labels and the curtailment of the advertisements and stuff. Right. But certain things, here's the problem with cognitive dissonance. Certain things happen, people make a bunch of money, and the long-term negative effects don't pop up until 10 or 20 years later.
Right.
And this is the point that I was making with 9/11. Okay. Post 9/11, or right after 9/11, they start rolling out the Patriot Act. We're still in the Middle East 20 years later. We're trying to get out with Donald Trump, and I view Donald Trump as one of the best presidents that we've had in the last 100 years.
Amen, bro.
So but we're still in the Middle East trying to fight these wars. Okay. But we were told during the Patriot Act, we need this so we can fight the bad guy, find and hunt the bad guy. Well, you know what? The bad guys are gone now. It's time to roll back to a pre-9/11 day where you don't have the surveillance state. And then
Right.
what happens is the powers that be will say, well, if we do that, we could have another terrorist attack. Well, if we're going to have another terrorist attack, then we spent trillions and trillions of dollars
for nothing
on something for nothing because you can't get the job done.
exactly.
So Americans need to stand up.
Mhm.
Americans need to stand up and tell their House of Representatives and senators at the state level and the federal level and their governor to say, you know what, enough is enough, and that we're going to roll back to a pre-9/11 surveillance situation in the United States because the bad guys are done. Right. You know, for example, when we went into World War I or World War II, we were in heightened alert, and there were certain war powers that were able to control the manufacturing and control prices in the United States for the war effort, which was understandable. We were at war. We could have lost the country if we didn't do that. But after the war, all that stuff was rolled back to a pre-war day. And this is the problem.
Now.
This is the problem. It's never ending scope creep. And Americans have been asleep. And I'm trying through my channel to wake them up and say, band together, help your neighbor in times of need, especially during this, this biological crisis. Don't let the top-down government erode your civil liberties.
Right.
And don't allow that Patriot Act or any form of it to take hold and force vaccinations. Because mark my words, I truly believe that this crisis in the United States, the powers that be are going to use to roll out forced vaccinations and other curtailments of your civil liberty, your biological civil liberties. And that's why I'm trying so hard to prevent another 9/11 from happening.
Right.
This is a biological 9/11 in slow motion.
Right.
9/11 was fast.
Yeah.
But this is another 9/11. It's coming to our shores and it's creeping. The virus is kind of like a terrorist, right? It creeps on you, right? So and the CDC and the NIH is gonna force some sort of vaccination type program. And I'm very concerned about my country on that, because that reminds me, how's that any different than my great uncle being tattooed during the Holocaust?
Right.
And he survived it. But this uncle that I'm talking about, and how's that any different than us getting rounded up into FEMA camps and having to do things, having to be tested and force vaccinated? How's that any different than the Holocaust? I see it the same thing.
No difference.
I see it exactly the same thing.
Right.
And I'm just trying to save my country and people.
You're doing a great job.
It's hard. It's hard. But here's the problem I have is, when I do these polls on my channel and asking, I've been begging people to contact their representative because I really think this is a problem. Contact their representative for two reasons. One, tell them that you're tired of the surveillance state and you're worried about the Patriot Act. And two, what is the plan if there's a breakout?
Right.
The government is not being transparent to its citizenry at the municipality level on what the plan is. And when people understand the plan, they will work together to make sure that people are safe. And the outside communities that are not in the breakout zone can help and provide material, food, water, medicine, whatever you need. We could band together and we can provide. America can do anything when we work together.
Right.
And unfortunately, the way it's spun in the media, you need FEMA. And FEMA ain't going to help. I'm telling you, FEMA is not going to help. I'm in New York, and during Hurricane Sandy, in Zone A, which is like the flood zone, we got hit hard, really hard.
Right.
So for like 15 days, no water, no electricity, no heat. And that was, the nor'easter. It was late in the year. It was very cold. It was probably the coldest time of my whole life for 15 days. For 15 days. Yeah. So we were stuck in a very cold, no food environment, okay, for 15 days. And there was no help from FEMA. The government didn't know what they were doing. Red Cross, all they passed out was blankets and water.
Right.
It was a total disaster, and that was just a simple hurricane.
Right. And
this is a biological disaster that can last for months.
Well, you look at Katrina, et cetera. And that's why on this channel we touch a lot on prepping too, and long-term food storage, and even if not long-term food storage, we try to tell people, hey, this pandemic, it's coming. A lot of people don't believe it's real, but there is going to be, I believe that we're going to have a medical martial law. If it, turns out to be, kind of like what's going on in China. But if you don't have water and food, like I say, beans and rice and water is key. If you don't start stocking up on it now, and look right now, Georgia, 200 plus, and look at Los Angeles, 1,000 plus, probably, that they're not confirmed cases, but it's just a matter of time. If now is the time, well, actually last week and before that was the time to get out there and at least buy a big bag of rice, a couple bags, and some beans for protein, some stuff that's high in calories, because they might declare medical martial law on us. And if you can't go to the local grocery store and you've only got 2 days worth of food,
but
you're screwed.
Yeah, you're right. Prepping is important, a minimum of 4 weeks minimum. But, some people can't afford that, or some people just can't store it. I mean, like in New York, you live in a very small area, and you can't store it. It's not like suburbia where you have a basement and you can store food. I mean, it just doesn't. So some regions of the world or some regions of the United States, it's hard to prep. All right. But, having a minimum of 4 weeks, I think is very prudent. But not only that, having some sort of nutraceutical to boost up your immune system and have a backstop of some sort of antiviral, antimicrobial type nutraceutical or homeopathic remedy, because the medical establishment, if they're flooded with thousands of cases in your area, you won't be able to see a doctor. And a lot of our drugs, our pharmaceuticals are coming from China. So we're going to run out of supply. I have no idea on how much is in our supply in the United States that deals with antiviral medication. I have no idea. And here again, this is where the CDC and the NIH needs to be transparent to the United States and say, you know what? We've been outsourcing for so many damn years to other countries that when there's a disaster in the United States, we can't support ourselves. And this is the great thing that Donald Trump has been saying from day one. We have moved our manufacturing in all kinds, in automotive, in steel, in pharmaceuticals, everything to squeeze the lemon for the Wall Street bankers and the stockholders, right? And the shareholder, these shareholders, but the stakeholders, the actual stakeholders, it's not just the stockholders, but it's also the citizens of that nation. And we are hurting now because of some guy or a gal that at a bank wanted to have maximum profitability, and now the nation is at risk. This is a national security now, because everyone thought that, and I'm a capitalist, but there is such a thing as capitalists going too far, right? And and where it actually hurts the country. You can't ship out all of your manufacturing. If we wanted, or if needed to fight China in the Pacific Ocean, we need a lot of steel to make boats, right? And ships and armaments. You got to have that here. You can't depend it on another country. And that's the point that Trump was making, is that you have to be more self-sufficient and protect your sovereignty. And a lot of people that on the side that don't like Trump don't understand this at all. They keep on playing this game that I just want cheap products from Walmart. Well, those days are done. Those days are over. It's time to actually start rebuilding America into the manufacturing prowess that we were many years ago.
Not to cut you off, but when I've said this on many videos, after this this pandemic or whatever, or even in the middle, there's not going to be any more Dollar Tree stores. That everything's from China. People don't realize, like you just said, and we talked about, a mass amount of our medication comes from China. So people that rely on heart medicine, etc. This is going to affect our country in so many ways, and it is going to affect our economy as well. So people do need to be prepared. But if you know, and I didn't, but going back to another topic too, when you talk about these wars, you know, I say that you know, it's no longer we the people, it's like it used to be. And you talk about that, you know, we can be we the people again, but right now there's no we the people because of such divisiveness.
Division. Right.
Yeah, and but when it comes to like some of the wars, you know, I know you saw, I believe you have, during Big Pharma, during the opioid crisis. You know, we had soldiers over there in Afghanistan and Pakistan that were guarding poppy fields. You know, a lot of wars are, you know, fought over resources. So, you know, what's the other one? Lithium. I think that's in Afghanistan, etc. So, you know, some people think, oh, it's just terrorism. We're going over there to fight just terrorism. Not always, you know.
It's definitely procuring, you know, raw material. Yeah, definitely. Right. I totally agree with you. But the thing is that here's the problem with the cognitive dissidents and the just the fatalism in this country. The cognitive dissonance types are saying, well, it's not going to happen here. Well, it is happening. Wake up, get off the couch and do something. Talk to your, you know, representatives, do something, help your neighbor. It's being proactive. That's how we're going to fight this. The ones that are the fatalists, what I mean by that is it's like they'll go, well, you know, this is the government, you know, is too powerful and I can't do anything. And, you know, I just might as well just sit at home and watch TV or watch football or whatever.
Right.
And I want to say to them that no, you need to stand up and fight for your country because your country is in need. We are losing our civil liberties day by day. And mark my words, if they start doing forced vaccination, there is a lot of patriots out there. They're gonna, I mean, use a term that you use, we're going to be locked and loaded. Trust me on this.
Amen.
Trust me on this, because we are not going to allow for a never-ending tyranny that has been happening for the last 25 or more years.
Right.
And it's time for the citizenry to come together peacefully, solve the current crisis by helping your neighbor that's in need. We'll be able to handle this and work with government. But don't assume that the government is the solution.
No, you can't rely on the government.
Right. But work with government. That's the point. Is that we work together. We come together, and then there's grassroots help, and then there's also federal help.
Right.
But don't assume that the federal help is the only help. But you have to raise the alarm and tell your representatives and tell your community, you know, your neighbors that we are not going to allow for this biological Patriot Act type legislation to come through and force certain things in our body that we don't want. Right. Independent on if you're a vax person or an anti-vax person, it is your civil liberty to determine what goes into your body. Right. That is the point. All right. Yep. And when the government is saying you have to, that's against the Constitution. That's against the Constitution. And we need to protect that sacred document because that enshrines all of our civil liberties. And unfortunately, people either don't read the Constitution, they don't even know there's a Constitution, or they just don't care.
I got my little Constitution book right here.
Right. It's important to protect. That's what makes this nation so great, and that's why I don't want to see my fellow citizens or the world at large die from this virus. I'm trying my best to inform people the best that I can about the science of it and how they can try to protect themselves and how to get treated to the best of my ability. And a lot of people are trying to help me, but there's this other issue that's really, really important, and that is you got to stand up for the country and say enough is enough, and we're not going to have any more of this tyranny of erosion of our civil liberties, and we're rolling back to a pre-9/11 day. This is the key, that we're not going to allow the 5G surveillance state to be implemented. and that this is important, that if we do not stop this as patriots, we are going to lose our civil liberties. So we can't just be fatalists and talk. We have to have action, but peaceful action. We have to have peaceful action. But the thing is if the government does not adhere to the will of the people, we the people, if they don't adhere to that, we the people, telling them that we want the rollback to a pre-9/11 day, where we don't have this never-ending surveillance state like we have post 9/11, then it is our obligation and our right to stand up, locked and loaded, and making sure that we take back this country, to preserve that Constitution. Because obviously, the ones that are in power in the government is not willing to protect that Constitution. And they'll just let the lobbying groups make their cash and have that never-ending surveillance state. There should be no reason why NSA has as much power it has. There should be no reason why the Homeland Security has as much power it has. And people like you and me, we know by the things that we say, and when we're doing these recordings and communication with people on the phone or whatnot, that weird technological things happen that shouldn't be happening with keywords. Well, that means that there's a surveillance state, and that means that it's going to get worse once they have the 5G, because that's what's happening with current technology. Just imagine what it's going to be with technology with a factor of 10.
Now, I saw earlier in the comments section when I was talking about 5G and false flag events, somebody had put in there that I've never seen before, was like, oh my gosh, he's using keywords. I don't try to beat the algorithm. I don't try to, certain things, because I want to get the truth out. If they take down my channel, they take down my channel, but at least some people got to hear those keywords. And like you said, the NSA algorithms with YouTube, AI, this and that, they do.
Well, are you familiar with my working hypothesis about the CIA and the P4 facility?
No, that's
okay. Sit down and listen. This is good. All right. So this bioengineered virus, which I can prove was bioengineered. I could prove it. All right. And I did videos on it, and we've talked endlessly on Oppenheimer Wrench about this. But this virus, this Wuhan strand virus, is a combination of bat SARS-like virus, SARS coronavirus, and HIV. It has HIV homology. It doesn't mean that it's HIV. It just means that it has pieces of HIV. Now, the point that I'm making is the probability of this happening in nature, which is called zoonotic, all right? But the probability of it happening in nature is very, very low, very low. All right. So it was bioengineered, and we can trace the research papers as this strand was being bioengineered to study how coronaviruses are harbored in natural species like the bat. They were supercharging the virus to understand that in the lab to come up with vaccinations. So they bioengineered it. I mean, researchers bioengineer a lot of stuff, right? So they bioengineered this virus. It just so happened to be so supercharged it had to be in a protective lab, a P4 lab, or what we call an L4 lab, but a P4 lab in Wuhan, and it was leaked out. And we don't know if it was leaked out on purpose or if it was leaked out on accident. But there is safety protocols, historical safety protocols that have been breached at P4 facility in Wuhan with SARS. Okay, so SARS leaked out there. Okay, so let's assume it was leaked out on accident. We know that President Xi and the CCP have the 1,000 Talent Plan, where they were trying to use espionage to get technologies out of different countries, especially the United States and Canada. Well, that we caught some of those espionage actors from Harvard. And from, there were 3 that were caught in Boston, and there's going to be many, many more. Then there were researchers that were stealing material from a biological lab in Canada mid last year.
Yeah,
that's tied to that's tied to Corona. Right. And so the researcher that did the bioengineering works at P4,
Mm-hmm.
His name's Zhou, Piang Zhou, Dr. Piang Zhou,
Right.
Ping Zhou. So so you can follow his research, but not only that, you have this geopolitical event that's taking place with the CCP, with trying to get talent, get information or technologies, nanotechnologies, biological technologies, chemical technologies. And then we know that the PLA has already rolled out a plan to take the first island chains in the Pacific Ocean by
Right.
2025.
Right.
And our Navy, our Naval Academy, is battle planning, for such an event.
And it's going to be nasty.
So the CIA. Here's where the working hypothesis works.
Mm.
Miles Go is on Steve Bannon's show, War Room, Pandemic. All right. He's a dissident from China. He's a billionaire. All right. He has a Twitter account called Voice of Go, GUO. All right.
Okay.
He tweeted, yeah. I pronounce it Go, but it may be pronounced in Chinese as Guao or something like that.
Right.
But he posted on Twitter on January 4th of this year a cryptic message that is a launch code for forward operations for the CIA. And if you look at the tweet, it'll talk about 10 seconds and 1 minute. It's a factor 6. And when he states that the people of China will be free on June 4th, 2020. If you take June, and June, is the 6th month, divide it by 2, that's 3. If you take the 4 and divide it by 2, that's 2. If you take 20 and you separate the digits, it's 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0. So that's 4. Divide that by 2, it's 2. It's 322 is the launch code for forward operations for the CIA. So Steve Bannon and Voice of Guao is working together to pull down the CCP because of this incident. Because of this incident.
Right.
And I'm not saying that the CIA forced the leak out of P4, but they're sure as hell using it as an opportunity to pull down the CCP.
Boy, they better be
careful.
I
don't see anything wrong with pulling down the CCP and allow for democracy to flourish. But we need to help the people at large in Wuhan and in China, because they're literally going through a biological holocaust. And we have people from the inside that have leaked some information to my channel of people throwing dogs and cats out the window to euthanize them.
Yeah, we talked about that on here too.
Yeah, and people dying in their apartments, and they're burning the apartments to disinfect it because they're quarantining the individuals in the apartments. So, I mean, the place is turning into like Berlin right after World War II, So it's scary, and we have to help our fellow world citizen, fellow human being, and my heart goes out to these Chinese that are suffering.
Oh, absolutely.
But pulling down the CCP, I see nothing wrong with that, Mark. But here's my concern: is that this operation to pull down the CCP, I think, is also tied into the Patriot Act, and they're going to say, well, this was a bioweapon. They're going to keep on saying bioweapon, not bioengineered.
Right.
You can bioengineer something or make something and make it a weapon.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So you're going to hear in the news bioweapon and coronavirus, and it's what they're going to do is going to force the vaccination program, because you don't want to get that coronavirus, even though most coronaviruses are just the common cold. And so they're going to force this vaccination program and complain that it was like, well, this is a bioweapon, and that there's going to scare you into this Patriot Act, just like the bioweapon is the terrorist.
Right, exactly.
Just like it was during 9/11. There's the connection.
Right.
There's the connection. So, I'm concerned about it. And there are dormant legislations at the state level and at the federal level that have components of what I call the Patriot Act that I'm scared of. And it's the citizens need to stand up and say no more. Because if we don't, we're going to have a very hard time getting back our civil liberties when we go full 5G. So I find it an imperative that individuals need to stand up for their rights and take back their country. And if it becomes a FEMA camp situation where there's forced vaccinations and a rollout of the Patriot Act, I believe that every patriot that is listening needs to get organized and start thinking about going kinetic. Because
Right.
if we don't go kinetic and take back our country, I'm not saying pull down and burn down the government. I'm saying
Mhm.
protect the Constitution and say, hell no, this is not going to happen. And we band together with arms.
Right.
That's our right. That when the powers that be take our civil liberties and start eroding our constitutional rights, it is our right and obligation as citizens to stand up and protect that
Right.
Constitution. And it's good. I am putting all of my heart and soul into this.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I do not want it to go kinetic. I want it to go peaceful. But I'm
Mhm.
telling you, if they roll out that Patriot Act and they start instituting these FEMA camp situations with forced vaccinations, I will make sure that this goes kinetic.
Right.
I will spend all of my energy and finances and network to raise the alarm
Mhm.
in this country that the elected officials need to start listening to the people and start rolling back to a pre 9/11 day in terms of surveillance and our civil liberty erosion. And I hope that people that are listening that have connections to the White House and the administration listen. I'm not some flash pan, mouthpiece, just talking, because I'm mad.
No,
This
you're
has been a slow.
very educated.
This has been a slow rollout that has been aggravating many citizens since 9/11.
Mm.
And this is the point. This is the breaking point. And I am concerned that Trump, even though I love the guy,
Mhm.
I'm concerned that Trump isn't taking the measures to secure freedom of speech because of what's been happening with the censorship on social platforms.
Right.
And because of his inaction, because of that inaction, he's hurting the cause of trying to protect the Constitution. And we need to band together, do this peacefully, help your neighbor, get through the biological crisis. But if the government starts to mark my words, if the government starts to roll out this Patriot Act and force vaccinations on everybody and start to corral people with M16s, because you don't fight a virus with M16s, you fight a virus with science and compassion.
Mhm.
But if they start corralling people like in the movies or like what they did in China, I will put my life on the line for this country to protect this Constitution. And I expect, I'll say this again, I expect every patriot to be following me on this.
Well,
Because
absolutely. Here on this channel.
if they don't follow this, then they don't really believe in the protection and the civil
Right.
liberties of the Constitution. So this is the point in time. Just like our forefathers had to stick their neck out to say hell no to the King of England, this
Mhm.
is the time
Right.
that we work together peacefully. But if they don't roll back that surveillance state to a pre 9/11 day, it's going kinetic.
Mhm.
These days of continual, never-ending surveillance is over. And I'm trying to get on as many channels and spread the word, and hopefully I'm get up higher and higher to a voice and an audience that's hearing my message.
Right.
But this country is in danger. And I'm trying to sound the alarm. The Oppenheimer Ranch Diamonds calls me Paul Revere. But
No, the British are coming, the British are coming.
yeah. Well, but the thing is Nancy Pelosi's coming, and she's
Right.
trying to take your civil liberties away. And what she did behind the back of the president is emblematic of what she wants to do to the Constitution. She wants
Exactly.
they want to tear the Constitution to shreds and turn this place into a never-ending hell.
Well, look what's happening now. I mean, people that are that are asleep, they believe everything on mainstream media, watch CNN, they don't realize the attack on our freedom of speech already, just even through platforms like YouTube here, and the attack on our Second Amendment. Now Arizona is trying to implement the same laws that are being passed in Virginia, etc. And a lot of us here on this channel believe that all the stuff that's going on right now is very prophetic. You know, that, how do I put this into words? That regardless, no matter what, this is going to happen. And the powers that be, it's written in the Bible, the book of Revelations, etc. But either way you slice it, our freedoms, like I said, we the people, is being destroyed by the far left, by, like I said, like the Pelosi's that want to rip up our Constitution, etc. And that's what's, that's what's going on. And you know, what was that you said again?
The Patriot Act.
Patriot Act. Everybody, remember that Patriot Act. I never thought of that. And people that are afraid to die or whatever, yeah, it's scary to them. But this
so here's the thing is that everybody that has freedoms in this country was due to someone that was willing to fight for it.
Exactly. How many of our soldiers and patriots died for our freedoms right now? And then you have people that hate our country, like Antifa, etc. That will spit in the face of our soldiers coming home, just kind of like back in Vietnam. But anyways, go ahead. I want you to. I
want patriots love their country, love their family, love their God, and want to make the world a better place. We don't want to burn it down. We don't want to burn it down. We want to build this country to its full potential, because we're pioneers, and when we band together, we can solve anything. And I truly believe that. So we need to band together and solve this biological crisis. But the government has divided us, and we need to start to come together. But I'm telling you, if they roll out that Patriot Act and they start forced vaccinations, it's game on. It goes kinetic. And all these patriots need to start realizing that all these things that we've been saying for years now about being prepared, being exercise your Second Amendment and purchase guns and have ammunition. We're going to need to start to get organized in a militia manner and actually take back our government. I'm not saying burn down the government, but what I'm saying is that if it goes kinetic, I'm trying to reach out to the military, the active military. You still there?
Yeah, you got the
so
NSA didn't like what you were
phone.
saying.
You there?
Can you hear me?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You there? Let me give you a call right back.
Okay.
Someone called me. Okay. Let me give you a call right back.
All right. Well, he's definitely very passionate. Now, I even told him, everybody, that what I would like, because I've seen him on other interviews, people really didn't give him a chance to talk. So I basically said ahead of time, look, you have the floor, the platform. Yeah, I'm trying to get in some questions, but I know he's very, very passionate. So if you wonder why I'm not getting questions in, because this is his time to shine, so to speak. So the platform, I'm telling them that the platform basically belongs to you right now. Say what because I've seen you in other interviews where you weren't really able to say certain things that you wanted to get off your chest. So that's why I think this stream right here is really important. And you're touching more. Can you hear me? Can
you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry, someone called and it disrupts the communication here.
Right.
But okay. So what I was saying, what I was saying is that if the Patriot Act is rolled out or is discussed in Congress, and bits and pieces of it are being discussed right now. I mean, February 5th was one of those pieces in the. I have a video on my YouTube that talks about the Senate here, not the Senate hearing, the House hearing about appropriation money for a full-time cabinet position for some sort of biological crisis. Yeah. So if this is no, I'm not. Wow. So if this, and there's a link to the actual hearing. So, we need to wake up. It's happening. It's happening. And the thing is that everyone's so busy, rightfully so, because of their regular day lives, they can't track all the stuff that the government's doing. They slowly roll it out. and it's hard to track it until after the fact. So, people will say, well, you have representative government and they passed a law, so you have to follow the law. But what happens when that law is unconstitutional? It takes too damn long for it to get to the Supreme Court.
Oh yeah.
By the time we really have this discussion, it's 50 years later and they've already created the damage.
Right.
So my point is that all patriots out there that have been prepping and have been seeing this coming, we need to start banding together and be ready to go kinetic. Right. But I want to reach out to the active military, because I suspect that the active military actually listens to your channel too. Not just
we have veterans and active military.
Right. Well, I'm reaching out to those right now. I'm speaking to the right at this moment in time. I'm speaking to the ones that are active. All right. There is going to be a point in time, if they roll out the Patriot Act and force these vaccinations or start corralling people in these FEMA-like camps because of quarantining, and it's trying to, and it's not allowing grassroots movement to help their neighbor that are in need, and they're just doing a top-down government thing, you're going to be at a point in time where you're going to be facing patriots with guns. Are you going to fight? Are you going to fire on your patriots? They're trying to protect that Constitution. Because if you do, you are a traitor to the Constitution.
Right.
You say an oath to that Constitution. You do not say an oath to Nancy Pelosi and her bullshit establishment. So you make sure that when you point that gun and you had that general that's saying, fire on your fellow citizens that's trying to protect your country, you are a traitor.
Right.
And you will be, the patriots will hang you for that. So get on our side. Get on our side.
I know you're very passionate about this, but another thing too, it even constitutionally wise, the military, if they don't have to take orders that they know are unconstitutional. So if they're the higher brass above them tell them force these vaccinations or drag people out of their homes, but they don't have to
de-arm them.
Yeah, that's where I was
de-arm them, right?
Yeah, but
go ahead.
Real quick. I want to get this point out, and people always said, because I know a lot about construction. I grew up in construction. I have my own concrete construction business. My brother was a builder. My dad was a builder. When it comes to these FEMA camps, people say, oh, that's such a conspiracy. And a lot of them say, well, the reason why they have all the security around there is to protect the copper wire on the roofs. You don't spend over 1.5 million or 2 million putting barbed wire fences that the barbed wire force with security camera and all that just to and have security driving around 24 hours just to protect copper wire. No, those FEMA camps are real. Those are
right. This is why it's so visceral for me. My family has been affected by the Holocaust, and I am not going to let my fellow citizens in this country go through the same thing that happened to my family.
Right.
It is not going to happen. It's not. And the powers that be need to understand there's a higher power that's guiding us to try to protect our citizens.
Right.
And that power is a lot stronger than any will of the Nancy Pelosi regime.
Well, they're brutal.
But the power of God is far more.
Amen.
So my it's my concern is that the military needs to wake up and be on the side of the patriots when we decide to make this go kinetic.
Right.
We do not want to kill. We do not want to to have destruction, but we have to. It's our obligation and our right to protect that Constitution when our government is burning it right in the middle of it. It was so emblematic of what Nancy Pelosi did during that State of the Union address. That was a symbol to the far left that it's okay to tear up the Constitution. And
exactly.
I am not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen.
It just blows my mind that she would be so. I wouldn't even say childish, that vindictive and evil, and it just
they hate this country. They hate this country.
Yeah,
they absolutely hate this country.
Yeah,
and the bullshit is going to have to stop.
Right.
And I want a peaceful peaceful United States, a peaceful
Right.
world.
Right.
But sometimes you have to go to war to get the peace.
Right, exactly. And a lot of us here on this channel, there's a lot of proud patriots, and we always say we'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees, and that's the
Yep.
truth. So
Yep.
there is a possibility that this pandemic, which I want to touch back on the pandemic real quick before we get off
Yep.
here, but the way you tied it all in, it makes a lot more sense too. But this could actually bring a banding a bunch of patriots together, basically taking back our country. I love your passion. I love your passion for our country. But to go back towards the virus, where do you see us 2 to 3 weeks from now, pandemic wise?
I think that we're going to see these, what I call seed centers. These are the original confirmed cases. It'll start to balloon out. You'll start seeing 10 confirmed cases in each of these seed centers, and it'll start to get worse.
So just okay. Let's say 2 months from now.
2 months from now, it's in full bloom. Most of the United States is going to be covered in this.
So basically what you're saying, so right there goes, that's why I was asking you that. When you're buying, even in small places, you're talking about it's hard in Manhattan and stuff, but if you can buy, bags of beans and rice and, put them under your bed and stuff, that will keep you alive. But
it's important. So there's going to be a lot of lockdown. You have to be, prepared, with food and water. And this is why I say that the government needs to be transparent, because no one knows what the government is going to be doing. We don't understand. Is there going to be debt forgiveness for people when they're in lockdown and they can't go to work?
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues that haven't been discussed that are, on the financial side, the biological side, there's just so many, and they need to be transparent. We don't know. But in terms of the number of people affected in the United States, you're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in a month. Okay. Wow. If we get the breakout, if we start seeing these seed centers start to grow.
Right.
All right.
And this is a real virus.
But
it's not.
It's a real virus. It's a real virus. And if it's not taken care of, you will die.
Right.
All right.
Even if you survive, you'll suffer long-term effects from the scar tissue in your lungs.
Right. But that depends on how fast you can get treated.
Right.
So if you get treated quickly, then the scarring's less and it's not so much damage. It's when you let it fester and then you go to the doctor, it's too late. It's not too late. They still save you, but the scarring is much worse. So the key is once you start feeling sick, you need to see the doctor. Unfortunately, when you start seeing a pandemic, the healthcare infrastructure is going to start to break down, and it's going to be hard to get a doctor. And we don't even know if they have enough drugs once the outbreak happens, if they can get. So it's important to listen to my channels. I have, sometimes I have to say it in code because of legal reasons, but there are natural protease inhibitors that are in the nutraceutical world that one can take that aren't as strong as the strong stuff that the MD gives you, but at least it's something. At least it's something, just in case. So just get educated about antiviral, antimicrobial type nutraceuticals. Coming from the more homeopathic side of things, because there are things out there that can help you, but it's not a cure. It's not a cure, but it's at least something. It's something to help.
To build that immune system. We have
to build up the immune system, recharge your battery, and try to fight the infection when you get it until you can get to a doctor to give you stronger medication. But I'd be very worried about a vaccine, especially with this new messenger RNA vaccination program, because we do not know the long-term effects of it.
Well, what was the point that I was getting at when I was talking about get some rice and beans if you're from what you told me, the information you gave me, don't just stock up on food, stock up on ammo, people, patriots out there. why you can, you know. So I mean, this is real. This could be the end of our country if we don't when the right time comes. And I believe maybe that this virus was designed perfectly at the right time to, you know, to create medical martial law, etc. Have people die out, have people that are weak that can't really fight for our country. You know what I mean?
Well, there is some research out there that suggests that your point, that there was a long-term plan that's been in the making for a minimum of 50 years.
Well, Agenda
to
21.
actually right, that targets a certain calling of the population before certain geological, astrological events to take place. And there is a conspiracy theory out there where there people thought that one of the milestones within their agenda, the powers that be, I call them the powers that be, part of their agenda was to cull the Asian population before the next milestone. But unfortunately, in their plan, or I guess I would say fortunately, one of their milestones before this was supposed to be a nuclear war with Iran, which did not take place. So that didn't happen. So I think that they're trying to speed their plan, and by speeding their plan, because they didn't get what they wanted through Obama and Trump with a nuclear war in Iran, they're going to make missteps, and they're trying to push it too fast, and that's their Achilles heel. That's the Achilles heel, and we need to focus on that. But to your point, we need to prepare, and those patriots need to start thinking, you know what? All the things that we've been saying since 9/11, it's time to get up. It's time to get organized, to be active, and if they start moving with this Patriot Act, it's game on. It's game on. And that the people that are listening, that are in the active military, it is your obligation to help us protect our Constitution and our citizens. Don't fire on us. Don't fire on the citizens when they're scared. These people, the people that are sick are scared. They're afraid of dying, and they're afraid of how the government is going with this top-down mentality of forcing people to do things that are against their civil liberties. They're not being transparent. Why are they not being transparent? Either they're totally incompetent, which is partially true, and they're hiding a bigger agenda, which I think is 100%, which is 100% true. So absolutely, it's time for us, patriots, men and women, to stand up, and it's like, game on. We're taking back our country, and we're rolling back to a pre 9/11 day, because this post 9/11 bullshit is over.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize after 9/11, that's when all the people were, you could carry the American flag. People had American flags everywhere. Now, if you go in a town and you're waving the flag, you can get attacked by Antifa. I mean, not somebody like me. I'd knock them out. But I'm saying, like, an older veteran. But I have a question.
But they did that on They did that on purpose to divide us. So it's,
yeah, it was all. Yeah, if you were to take time to go through my videos from the past, this was all well orchestrated and designed by the global elitists, the George Soros, etc., to cause such a division in our country, to make us weak. Our foundation, like you said, our foundation of America is crumbling. You know what I mean? So that's basically what I have a question, and so many people had questions. And for me, right now there's 72 in the house, but Annie says, so does olive leaf extract work? She's asking you, Dr. Paul, if you're familiar with olive leaf extract for boosting your immune system.
Yeah. So there are people using it. Now, I have done a protocol. I've published a protocol through YouTube on what I am going to use as an antiviral protocol if I get sick. Okay. And I am using birch bark as one of the compounds
Right.
an extract, one of the compounds that I'm mixing with other stuff to fight the infection. I'm not using these as like a standard daily protocol. I have other stuff that I've been doing for years that I'm just very happy with, and that's been very good for me. But I have a video on my YouTube that actually talks about olive leaf extract from a caller that called in that has much more detailed information on why it's antiviral. So people are using it for immune boosting, but my understanding is that birch bark actually has a stronger antiviral property that we're looking for with this particular particular outbreak.
Colloidal silver, that's an antifungal, right? That's not antivirus.
Well, colloidal silver is antimicrobial. So and what that is it can fight against viruses and bacteria.
Okay, so that answers somebody's question in the chat.
But there is a new technology out there that I just did a caller interview that has a deep understanding of nano silver.
Nano silver?
Nano silver. So I think that nano silver is better than colloidal silver.
Okay.
It's less toxic. It seems to be more potent. It's what the military uses, and if the military is using it, I believe in it.
Right. Exactly.
So. Right.
Exactly. All right. Well, I know you have another interview coming up. It was a complete honor and to have you on. I've been trying to get you on for a while, quite a while. Like I said, you became a YouTube sensation, unfortunately, because of this virus. But your knowledge on the virus and your passion of our country makes you a true patriot. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for you to take time out of your busy schedule and voice your opinion and give us some facts here and there. And would love to have you back on the show again, sometime down the future, whenever you have time, because like I said, this was
well, just reach out to me, I'll put you in the contact list, the important contact list.
All right.
and but because you have a constituency that I am trying to talk directly to save this country. The people that are listening to your channel, they are the people that is going to roll back the Patriot Act.
Right.
Through conversation and try to do it peacefully. But again, we also have the means to take it kinetic if we have to.
Right.
That's called power. We don't want to burn down the country, but we want to protect the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And that if we let that Constitution erode, then every man and woman that died for this country is in vain. And I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen. So we got to stick together. So this is not just me promoting my channel or So this conversation that we're having is the beginnings of a movement. So we got to stick together. So you're part of the council of a new beginning for this country. You're part of it.
I'll tell you
so
something.
It's not just a channel conversation. Right. This is you're part of the council.
Oh, that's awesome. And just when you said I'm not here to promote my channel, one of our brothers here, who's a veteran himself, Mitchell Reese, he's been putting your link in the comment section. Many people have subscribed to you from this channel here, but here, we tell people, if you have a YouTube channel, please put it in the comment section. So, but yeah, the more people and the more we talk about this, we do need to stand up and take back our country. And this is very serious. What's over the horizon?
It's not talk. It's not talk. It's not just blabber on the internet. This is real. This is very real. This is we need to do something. And that's why I keep on saying, contact your representative and let's do this peacefully, because if not, it's going kinetic, and I'm leading it. I'm gonna force it to go kinetic,
right? Because
I'm taking back my country.
Well, let's hope and pray, brother. All right. Well, you know what? Rest your voice, because I know here in another 30 minutes you have another interview. but you're welcome anytime. And you said you're going to put me in the important contact list. That's that's an honor. That's an honor.
All right.
All right. Oh, somebody has a question for. Are you collaborating with CICADA? I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that is, so I'm not collaborating.
Are you collaborating with the CICA? That's a word. Cicadia. I'm probably saying it wrong.
Oh, cicadia.
Yeah,
All right. So what they're mentioning. So Cicadia is was a group maybe about 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. They were it was a cryptography group. Okay, they were like let's say, anonymous. Okay, remember Anonymous?
Yeah.
And Cicadia 3301 was a group that tried to code stuff in different ways.
Right.
And to get around the algorithm on YouTube, we're going to need to start using cryptography.
Right.
And learning to be able to compress pictures and text into sound waves and send the sound waves over the internet, and then it's unpacked so you can see the picture and the real sound. So you pack it, you send it as a sound wave, you unpack it, and you see the image and the real sound. And that gets around the artificial intelligence algorithm on YouTube.
Right. Well, very cool. I will definitely check that out, and everybody that listened to you. And like I said, right now we have 68 in the house. We've been live 1 hour and 26 minutes. Like I said, it's been an honor. I truly thank you. Would definitely love to have you on again when you have time. But once again, if you could just tell the people out there that say this is fear porn, this is fear mongering, yada yada yada.
This is protecting our country and our civil liberties, and this is the most sacred thing that we can do.
Well, I'm talking about the virus, on how real and deadly this virus.
Or in terms of the virus, it's very real, and it will kill you if you don't take care of it.
Yeah, because a lot of people are like,
it's very real. It's very real. And it will affect different cohorts of patients. Some people will have more mild cases, and other people will have more severe cases. But people will die if they don't take care of this.
Right. All right. Well, I do thank you very much. And I have a saying that I always say at the end of my my live streams or my videos. So once again, thank you very much. We'll keep in contact. And once again, really look up to your passion for the love of our country, the United States. So and our Constitution. Fear no man, never fear death. Get right with God. Fight the good fight, and always stay locked and loaded. God bless each and every one of y'all.
Amen. Later.